Now, as I mentioned, Reform UK blasting Keir Starmer for hypocrisy over those reports that he plans to blame Nigel Farage and Brexit on tax hikes in the up-and-coming budget. Labour is expected to cite a £120 billion hit to the economy from leaving the EU, a move they claim Farage pushed with easy sloganeering before then walking away. Reform call the claims ludicrous, noting Labour has been in power for over a year. Yeah, they're suddenly coming up with this. Meanwhile, Reform UK revealed that they now have more than 260,000 paid members. Richard Tice hailed the achievement, saying Nigel Farage's movement has gone from strength to strength. Let's speak to Alex Wilson, Reform UK London Assembly member. Regularly helps us out on these kind of stories. Alex, good afternoon to you. There is no real surprise, is there? You can almost see the old bods and the mandarins over there at Downing Street writing up the budget, going, yeah, let's use the Brexit line. We haven't done that for a while, and it sounds like they're about to do it.
Yeah, well, they've run out of their own ideas, so they're kind of really scraping the barrel here and deciding to blame Nigel, blame Reform, blame Brexit, for something which has completely nothing to do with us. We've not been in power yet, so how can we be responsible for the choices that this government is making? As soon as this government came into power, just over a year and a half ago, first thing they did was cave into public sector unions. Big pay rises. That has to be paid for somehow. That's what's created a big black hole. The other issue that they're talking about, productivity, which I think that these new figures are coming on the back of productivity estimates being wound downwards. We all know the big impact in productivity that's happened in the last few years was lockdown, working from home, the fact that people are not getting back into the office properly and getting on with their jobs, and everyone works a 4-day week at best, and a 3-day week if they can get away with it, because 3 days in the office maximum and 2 days doing whatever you want to at home. It's ridiculous. So they've got to take responsibility for those decisions and try and act on those before they start passing the blame around. Absolutely. And
it's quite extraordinary that, I mean, I'm not including Labour's time in power, but up until recently we were, in fact, I think still to this day, our economy is doing far better than many of those European countries that are still very much in the EU, the Germanys and the Frances of this world. We've fared better on so many measures and graphs, and now they haven't left the EU. So what's going on? How does that sit within this Labour idea that it's all due to Brexit?
Yeah, exactly. There are problems that are affecting countries right across Europe and right across the world, and productivity is one. Energy cost is another. And again, that's something that this government has got to take a lot of responsibility for, in that we have the most expensive industrial electricity prices in the world, 4 times those of America. And is it any wonder that it's difficult for industry to remain productive and viable and competitive? When we're paying through the nose for energy. If only we made better use of our own natural resources instead of chasing this ridiculous net zero fantasy, then we could be much more competitive, we could grow more quickly, and then we could be in a much better position to actually raise the revenue to pay for the public services that we all want.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, that wouldn't be too much to ask, I would suggest, Alex. Let's look at this story as well. This popped up in the Times today. Nigel Farage will break with his manifesto pledges of the $90 billion in tax cuts as he attempts to bolster his party's economic credibility. What do you make of that, Alex? Because there might be some Reform members who are a little bit disappointed in that. Nigel Farage, I'm sure, would say, if this story is true, by the way, would say, well, we can only react to the economy we're left with.
Exactly. And each election, the manifesto has to be written for the election that you're about to face, rather than the election that you've just had. And if this turns out to be the case, then I think what we'll be trying to do is establish a really strong foundation of credibility on this subject. The economy is the most important subject facing the country, cost of living, how we pay for public services, and we need to be robust on that. We know that our figures are going to be very much more closely scrutinised as we get closer to the next election than they were at the last election, and the figures have to add up. It's still very, very much in the party's DNA to be a tax-cutting party. We are a party that believes in the Laffer curve, that believes in right-wing economics, shrinking the size of the state, letting the private sector grow, flourish, and raising the revenue. You need to do that. But in the first instance, we have to demonstrate to the electorate, to the other parties, to the bond markets, to everybody that's showing an interest in this, we have to demonstrate that we're serious about tackling the growth in spending first. Once we've done that, then yes, of course, we'll deliver tax cuts. Nigel said it's still the aspiration, absolutely, to deliver that £20,000 threshold for income tax, but that will be something that we'll look to do towards the end of the Parliament rather than at the beginning of it.
There was some interesting news as well over the weekend. Membership for Reform UK, I mean, it is really up there now, 260,000 paid up members. It's interesting that Labour only have, and I say only, they have 309,000 members. I mean, that is not far off where Reform are clearly heading.
But we're very close on the heels now. I mean, I don't know if you remember, it was only Boxing Day last year that we overtook the Conservatives on, what was it, 160,000 or thereabouts, and now we're very, very hot on the heels of Labour. So the growth in membership has been phenomenal over the last year, but it's matching other things that are growing. The branch network being established, got over 450 local branches now that are fighting campaigns locally, winning council by-elections every week. Just in the last 2 weeks, so in October so far, we've won 9 out of 14 seats that were available in council by-elections. The polling is very strong. I think over 130 consecutive leads in the opinion polls. Now, all this matters hugely because it's about getting the party in a state where we're ready to fight that next election. Now, obviously, we're still 3 years away. Things can change. We have to avoid complacency. Polls can go down as well as up. But the position we're in, both nationally with the polling and with those all-important results we had back in May, being backed up by what's going on locally on the ground, the branches, the membership, the weekly council by-elections, all that points to a picture where Reform is very, very clearly in contention to win the next general election. We're going to have to keep working hard, keep fighting hard, make sure the policy is credible, make sure the numbers stack up. But I'd certainly rather be in the position we're in now than the position we were in just 9 months ago, let alone a year or 18 months ago.
Is it going to be a struggle, Alex, for Reform to find the candidates? And obviously, if you're Tory or Labour or even Lib Dems, you tend to mostly already have people in place. They might win a seat, they might lose a seat. Obviously, Reform is starting from scratch. Now, everyone has to start somewhere. But, I mean, the job of being able to find thousands of people for local council elections is hard. Trying to find MPs or potential MPs is hard too. It's obviously a task. I know David Bull very well, and I know it's in the greatest of hands, but you can't underestimate how tricky that's going to be for your party.
It is a challenge, and it's a challenge to get anyone to stick their head above the parapet and get involved in frontline politics, because 9 times out of 10 you're just setting yourself up for a whole load of abuse from your friends, your colleagues, and your acquaintances on social media. It's in many ways a thankless task, but actually it's quite a rewarding task in itself, because you're serving your local community, you're being a voice of common sense for the area where you live. And actually, what was quite remarkable about the local elections in May, as well as how well we did in winning seats and winning councils, actually getting candidates nominated. We had more candidates nominated than either of the other main parties, and that's the first time that's happened in probably over 100 years.
Wow.
So yes, it's a challenge, but it's absolutely one that we can deliver on. Whereas compared to the local elections in 2024, we only contested 12% of vacancies. In just a few months ago in May, we contested over 99% of vacancies. Yeah. And for the last 3 months, we are the only party, August, September, October, we are the only party that has contested 100% of vacancies in those council by-elections. So yes, it's a challenge. It's to get the candidates, but it's something we've been working on very hard. The results are speaking for themselves, and fingers crossed, long may that continue.
And just finally this, a really disturbing story of George Finch, who's a 19-year-old Reform UK council leader in Warwickshire. He's been physically attacked in the street. He was called a racist and a fascist. Mr Farage firmly pointing the finger at the Prime Minister after this happened, attributing the attack to political opponents' rhetoric, highlighting tensions during Reform UK's rise. And we've heard it from the sultanas of this world, but we've also heard it from Keir Starmer. We've heard it from the Home Secretary. We've heard it right across the board, really, that, far right, dangerous, racist, that policy's racist. I happen to disagree with it, so therefore it's racist. I mean, this kind of, so you keep saying that to enough people and some nut job's going to take it as real and act on it. And that's clearly what happened with poor George Finch.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more strongly. You rightly say we've heard it from the Prime Minister, from Deputy Prime Minister, Home Secretary, I think Education Secretary as well. They've all at the Labour conference, they were obsessed about Nigel Farage and reform. Probably mentioned Nigel Farage more at the Labour conference than we did at our own. But they're using that kind of language: far right, racist, Nazi. Zach Polanski on Question Time the other night, from the new Green leader, accusing Zia Youssef of being a Nazi. And if you do that enough, then yes, people are going to react to that. I think the worst thing that Keir Starmer said in his speech at a conference, where he said, we must go into battle armed not just with words but with action. Now, what is that if that's not a call for someone to take up some sort of physical violence against reform candidates, activists, volunteers? We had a street stall the weekend before last where our volunteers that were manning the streets all had hot coffee thrown at them. This is happening now. The abuse, the potential violence is happening now more than ever. But what it does do, I think most of our people are very firm, very strong, very resolute, and it will firm up their desire to do the right thing and keep fighting, because we're not going to give up. The more people we seem to be annoying, the stronger we're getting, and the bigger that victory will be, and the more rewarding it will be for getting there.
Indeed. Listen, Alex, great to have you on with us. Alex Wilson, Assembly member in the London Assembly for Reform UK. Thank you to him.